We've reached the end, the conclusion of the Ocean arc. The Sirens game is about to wrap up, and all of the truths are about to be revealed. Are you ready? Honestly, I don't think you are. For those who have read the light novels and know what absurdity is about to take place, well, you know what I'm referring to. For those who haven't read the light novel, well, get ready to witness the most absurd conclusion to any game in No Game No Life. Not just thus far in my coverage of the series, which is up until Volume 5, but also, quite possibly, in all of No Game No Life in its entirety thus far, which is 12 volumes. And this is the most absurd conclusion of any game thus far. With that being said, though, let's jump right into it, as we pick up with our protagonists as they are back in Ocean, sharing the information that they have. The information that Shiro had come up with is consistent with what Steph's grandfather had written in his notes. Plum, who's also there, is exasperated at finding out the real reason why they almost went extinct. Meanwhile, Amela, the siren, is excited for what is about to happen. Sora and Izuna are also there, and Sora, well, he has no clue what's going on and thinks of himself just as trash, because, if we remember, at the end of the last chapter, Shiro was able to outread Sora. Sora misread something, and thus having his role in blank taken away by Shiro is feeling a little bit dejected. Izuna also has no idea what's going on, but, you know, if Sora's gonna throw himself as trash, she does offer to pick him up, because she likes Sora. But Shiro says, no, Sora's mine. And also, Sora, get ready, because I can't beat this game. Which of course causes Sora to perk up, because whatever Shiro can't do, he will pick up the slack, and vice versa. Whatever Sora can't do, Shiro can. And so they are ready to jump back into the dream. Meanwhile, in the dream world, the unconscious voice of one Layla Lorelei, the queen of the Sirens, is thinking that she's so bored. The city of Ocean is a treasure trove under the sea, and the most valuable treasure of all is the queen herself. Anything that she desires, she has. People shower her with love, and yet she's just bored. There is nothing she wants that she does not have. The dances all bore her. Of riches she's had her fill, and so for those reasons she can never be fulfilled. But perhaps if there was something that she did want, why, that would be true love. And so she sleeps, waiting for him, her prince, the man who will grant her the desires of her heart. And then she hears a word called Ashente, which stirs her unconscious mind from her sleep. Someone else is about to attempt her game. Many men have tried, many foolish ones who have aimed to win her love, and yet all of them have been fools. This man will be no different. But in her boredom, she decides that she'll toy with him a little bit, to lead him on, make him fall in love with words as sweet as honey, and then drop him, like all the others. You want love? A man's voice asks her. Yes, she responds. Are you the one who's going to give it to me? Sure, I'll give it to you. And with that, a shock rocks the sea, much to Layla's confusion, as she sees the sky crack and shatter, shards of it piercing into the ocean. The sky and sea now stained blood red. As she looks into the sky, she sees an Amanity man wearing an I Heart People shirt. Next to him, an Amanity girl, both of them wearing black capes to evoke the visage of the devil. They introduce themselves as Sora and Shiro. The queen greets them with a voice so soft as to make the heavens fall before her. But to no avail. Sora and Shiro aren't actually there. They're simply projecting their image. They are actually elsewhere in the game, which is why Layla's charm isn't working on them. Or at least, so it seems. And then another shock rocks the sea. And much to Layla's horror, as she's looking up into the sky, from those giant cracks start falling giant baby monsters. And the pandemonium starts to ensue. And through this pandemonium flies death itself. Upon wings seeming to be made of light, a halo spinning above her head, a flugel flies through the skies of Oceans. And behind her, nigh 100 more flugel. Shiro turns to Sora and says, it's not quite soul-crushing enough, which Sora agrees, but unfortunately they weren't able to bring real flugel. They had sealed Azrael's power, and, well, it seems like Azrael had actually put her idea into motion of proposing to the Council of 18 Wings that Avontheim join the Elkia Commonwealth. And so there's a little bit of turmoil within the Council at the moment, so they weren't able to get real flugel. Except for Jibril. But they were able to make flugel within the dream because, well, Layla knows what a flugel is, and in her mind, she can easily conjure up what those flugel are capable of. Here's the fun thing, though. The Queen never would have actually witnessed what a flugel is capable of within her lifetime, because the covenants exist. So the flugel have never been able to, actually use their attacks in front of other beings. So those flugel are only operating off of what Layla can imagine. All of them except for Jibril. Sora then turns to the Queen and tells her exactly where they are, and points over to the tallest tower in Ocean, where the Queen's chambers are. That is where Sora and Shiro are waiting for her. If you can make it there and make me fall in love, then that will end the game. Sora is telling the Queen to make him fall in love? The Queen has no idea what's going on, but she's horrified by what she hears next, as the flugel, as Jibril, turns to her masters and asks if it's alright if she annihilates the entire city with a single blow. And Sora says to go for it, blow away the entire city and the Queen herself. It's all just a dream anyways. It'll all come back together within a matter of seconds, so go wild. Do whatever you please. And with this, we probably, if this was animated, would see Jibril the most excited we have seen her in the entire series. To add even further insult to injury, Sora tells Layla that we did you a favor and added everyone that you had ever known throughout your life to this dream. Her parents, her friends, even her nurse from when she was a baby, all of them appeared in the dream, and even her sisters, whom she did not remember their names. Everyone that Layla had ever known was added to this horrifying dream. Or rather, since it is a dream, it can now become a nightmare. As giant baby monsters rain from the sky, set to devour everything in their path, and the flugel prepare to rain death down from the sky, Sora tells the Queen that her and everyone she knew will be devoured and blown away without end. From here on out, no one will save you. Let's see how long you can survive before you succumb to madness. And then, to lay icing on the cake, he just screams at the Queen, "Die, maggot!" After saying his piece, both Sora and Shiro disappeared, leaving Jibril to give thanks to her masters, for now she can release her full, unreserved, unadulterated, unrestrained, 100% heavenly smite. And with a flash of light, the dream world was extinguished. So yeah, this is the plan that Sora and Shiro had come up with, based on the conclusion that Shiro had reached. It's a dream world after all, so now it will become Layla's nightmare. And what a nightmare it was! Sora and Shiro were basing the giant baby monsters and everything that was happening apparently off of a terrible game that they had played at one point in the past, obviously with the addition of flugel raining death down upon her. And apparently that's not quite soul-crushing enough. But yeah, Layla's in for one hell of a time. And outside the game, well, the game is actually being projected to everyone present. And guess what? All of the Siren that are watching this are loving every minute of it. There are cheers going out with every blast as the sea is being obliterated within the dream. At the suffering of Layla, the Sirens are drinking it in. They are dancing and laughing and just in complete glee and ecstasy at what they are witnessing on screen. The other people watching it, though, are, not exactly of the same mind. Standing next to the unconscious bodies of Sora, Shiro, and Jibril, whose consciousness was now in the game, Steph was, of course, horrified by what she was witnessing. Standing next to her was a very confused Ino, who had yet to be filled in on everything that was going on. Izuna was hugging him tightly, her face buried in his stomach, happy to have her grandfather back. Ino asked for some clarification, and Steph, of course, didn't really understand it either, but conveyed a message to Ino from Sora, telling Ino to just relax. We figured out how to wake up the queen, and when we told the Sirens what the plan was, they immediately gave Ino back and gave us free rein to do what we want. Don't worry, we're playing a game by the Covenants where we will not let Siren and Dampier go extinct. So when they swore by the Covenants, that was a condition that Sora and Shiro set so that the Sirens were also okay with this, because Sora and Shiro had full intentions of winning the game. Sora ends off his message to Ino by saying that Izuna missed her grandfather, so they'll leave Izuna behind. You've got a good granddaughter, Gramps. So now, Ino is even more confused and understands Sora even less than he did before. With that, another blast rang out from Jibril and another cheer erupted from the Sirens. Plum, who's also present, tries to calm Amala down, that maybe it'd be a good idea to show a little bit of discretion. But Amala simply turns to Plum, a bright, beaming smile on her face and cheer in her voice, and says, "Come on, Plum, you can say it too. The suffering of that stupid, I'm not going to say the word because I have to worry about YouTube monetization, but the suffering of that stupid queen, let's just say, is so delicious." Amala is loving every single minute of this, to the point that Amala was even opposed to blocking the queen's sense of pain in this dream. That's something that Sora and Shiro had asked Plum to do when setting up the right to enter the dream, was to block Layla's sense of pain. Amala wanted her to feel every bit of this. That is how much Amala hates this queen. But there was in fact a purpose to all of this, and so Sora insisted that her sense of pain be blocked, so that, you know, she isn't completely mentally destroyed. Everyone else watching this, though, specifically Ino and Steph, both agreed, after seeing the Flugel rain down hellfire and the giant baby monsters and everything, that it was certainly a good idea to leave Izuna behind. Even with no, typical explicit content, what was being shown on screen was definitely not meant for children. Izuna still didn't know what was going on because she was just hugging her grandfather so tightly, burying her face in his stomach, and, wasn't exposed to the horror that is the Flugel. Because what they were watching was probably nothing but a skirmish before the Covenants were put in place. During the Great War, something like this probably happened every single day, leaving Steph and Ino to wonder how Humanity and Werebeast ever survived the Great War in the first place. Even Plum, who had never went a single day without cursing Tet for putting down the Covenants, for putting Dampier in the position that they are in now, looking at this scene, everyone there, Steph, Ino, Plum, all had the exact same thought. Thank you, Lord Tet, for putting down the Covenants. Essentially, thank you for putting restraints on these unbelievable gods of death. The Flugel are something that everyone on Discord fears. And now all of them have seen firsthand why the Flugel inspire such fear. Jibril has truly been unleashed and is enjoying every single minute of it. Back in the game, Layla is suffering. Jibril's first blow had evaporated the sea, and the blows are raining down so quickly that the sea has no time to regenerate. Even though it's a dream, even though everything will snap back very quickly, Jibril, since she doesn't have to worry about how many spirits she's consuming, can unleash blast after blast. With the sea not present, Layla cannot even swim. She's left crawling across the ground, the sun beating down, consuming her flesh. As the baby monsters are also rampaging, she's being blown away, devoured, time and again. This is truly suffering, which also, if Amala got her way and her sense of pain wasn't dulled, I don't know how anyone would be able to stay sane through all of this. Even with all of this, even not being able to feel pain, still, Layla is quite literally going through hell. Layla has no protection from the sea, since water is not present. She doesn't have her charm, she doesn't have the normal defenses and protection that she generally has, she can't move like she used to, and all she can hear is laughter coming from the sky, from Jibril, who's having the time of her life, and the screams of horror of all of her loved ones and everyone that she used to know being devoured and blown away at the same time she is from the ground. Yeah, this is definitely not anything I first expected this game to end up like when we were first introduced, because, if you remember, this game started out as a simple romance game. A school setting trying to win the love of the queen. And it's turned into hell. I was going to say hell on earth. It's not even hell on Disboard, sure, but it's like hell under the sea if the sea ceased to exist. It's the most absurd ending to a game that has ever happened in a No Game No Life. But it's not quite over yet. Layla finally reaches the tower, where Sora and Shiro are said to wait at the top. She wonders how many days it's been. Or perhaps it's only been minutes. She's been crawling across the ground, depending on how far it was. It could be a very long time. Or at least, it would certainly feel like a long time. It's probably been a couple hours, I'd imagine, because you wouldn't be able to make any progress moving forward as, you know, the heavenly smites are constantly blasting your entire being away. So it probably has been a decent amount of time. Maybe not a full day. Still, Layla reaches the tower, she throws open the door, and jumps inside as another blast rings out behind her. And inside the tower, she finds that there's water. She finds she has her protections back, the charm of the sea. Thankfully, this is the one place where the flugel cannot blow away, for her masters are above. Sora and Shiro are in this tower, and so Jibril is specifically not blasting it, so the water still remains. And Layla thinks to herself, "Oh, make me fall in love," is what Sora requested. "Fine, I'll do just that and pay him back for everything he's done to me." Layla was seething with rage as she swam as fast as she could up those stairs. And as she got to the door, she simply said, "Make way," and the water opened the door with force. This is Layla's power, the amount of water spirits that she controlled by essentially law of the sea obeyed her. Even a rite woven by the elves, if it was under the sea, the spirits that were employed by the elves would take Layla's side. This was simply how many spirits that Layla possessed. The protection of the water, the protection of the sea. As she swung open the door, she saw the devil standing before her, the man who dared challenge her. And so, with her first words to him, she put everything into her voice, something that again would make the heavens swoon before her, and demanded that he crawl on the ground. But the response that he gave made her doubt her own ears. Sora simply turned to her and said, "Weren't you listening? I told you to make me fall in love. Don't you have anything kind to say?" And Layla, quite taken aback by this, apologized for what she said, that those weren't her true feelings. Instead, she loves him, and wants a response from him. When saying these words, she had put everything she had into it, not just her voice, but the movement of her eyes, the movement of her entire body, trying to seduce Sora. And the response she got was for him to tremble, as he got goosebumps over his entire body. He simply told Layla that she was just not his type, which completely shocked Layla. She realized that he had come to this game with genuine conviction that he would not fall in love with her. And then Sora looked to Shiro, who was standing next to him, and Shiro nodded, giving him the go-ahead to absolutely just lay into Layla and say, just insult her over and over, as well as just an entire paragraph calling her an old hag. She's 800 years old. Who does she think she is? Like, compared to all of the other girls that he's with, she's just average at best. And those are the nicer things that he said. I highly recommend people read the light novel and experience really all of No Game No Life for themselves, but especially this paragraph, as unless I read it verbatim, I would not be able to do it justice. Sora uses a lot of colorful language in this practically entire page that is one single paragraph of him telling Layla exactly what he thinks of her, leaving Layla no opportunity to respond and completely dumbfounded as Sora, satisfied after his monologue, just pieces out of the game. Both him and Sora blink out of existence, leaving Layla just alone. The blasts stopped outside, and now everything returned to normal. Outside the game, Sora and Shiro woke up to be met with applause from the Sirens for the show that they had just given them. And Jibril, too, was awake, now with a new luster on her skin after having been able to release her entire power, unreserved heavenly smite. And she feels that she's going to have to let everyone know on Avantime of the experience that she just had, because for the rest of them, it's been 6,000 plus years that they've been restrained by the Ten Covenants, unable to unleash their power, something that the Flugel were born to do. Everyone did look to Sora, asking what that was all for, and Sora simply had no idea. All Shiro had told him was to act like himself, to simply go in the game and just troll the hell out of her until she had a meltdown. Which, of course, Sora's a little bit hurt by, because that's what his sister thinks is him being his true self, is just an insufferable troll of a human being. But the ice that is surrounding the Queen cracks, causing everyone to turn in surprise, as the ice then shatters, and Queen Layla Lorelei flicks open her eyes. The Queen has awoken from her dream, and she swims up to Sora, her face red, seemingly with anger. Sora turned to her, fully ready to continue his trolling, but Shiro told him that that's enough, as the Queen then threw herself at Sora's feet, asking her prince to, insult her more, much to everyone's obvious confusion. Essentially, the fairy tale that the Queen had read before falling asleep was told about a princess who also had everything, until the man with the dagger gave her something that she didn't have. Death. That is what inspired the Queen to go to her slumber. To her, the man that came with the dagger and stabbed the princess was someone that the princess could never possess. The Queen didn't want death. She wanted the man who didn't want her. The Queen, Layla Lorelei, was in love with the idea of love. She just wanted to fall in love with someone who would not love her back. Which, I can kind of understand, given that her charm just immediately makes everyone fall in love with her and just essentially do whatever she wants. So she wanted someone who wouldn't be that way. But Shiro took it a little bit further and had a different interpretation. Essentially, the Queen just wanted to be humiliated. Which Shiro also adds, like Steph does. Which, I don't know why Shiro had to add that. That's just throwing another stray at Steph. But this display just blatantly shows that the Queen is a masochist. And with that, Sora now understood that for the Queen, if the one she loves her back, that kills it for her. And so Sora's disgusted with the Queen, to which the Queen loves that he's disgusted with her. And then Shiro tells her brother to be nice. Now that he owns all of Layla's rights, he should step on her. Which she enjoys even more and asks for him to step on her harder. It is, again, just not the ending that one would expect this game to end up with. Seeing this, Plum sighs deeply, bemoaning the fact that this was the reason her entire race nearly went extinct for 800 years. The Queen's response was, "Oh, it's actually been 800 years? Well, all you guys had to do was just enter the game and beat me up. Are you guys stupid?" This is the Queen asking everyone else there present if they're the stupid ones. Siren aren't exactly the smartest race on Discord, but a large part of why they're looked down upon even more than humanity is because of Layla herself. She is easily the dumbest character that has ever been introduced into the series. Because everyone there, pretty much in unison, told her, "The Covenants prevent us from doing that, you idiot!" Not to mention, Layla also has her charm, so they probably wouldn't be able to, even if they wanted to. But regardless, Layla has pissed off everyone present. Everyone in her own race hates her guts, to the point that Amila asks Sora legitimately to hit her. And not just, hit her, but hard enough to cave her skull in. Like, that's actually written in the light novel. Amila hates this queen. I can understand the anger and frustration, but even that seems like maybe a little bit much. But yeah, of course, this causes Sora to once again wonder, what the hell is love? To which Jibril simply responds, "It is what you make of it. Everyone's gonna have their own interpretations, and Layla's is just unique, shall we say." And thus ends Sora and Shiro's adventures in Oceania. But the chapter's not quite done yet. Steph, now back in Elkia, has even more paperwork stacked in front of her, now having to incorporate all of Oceania and their ocean resources into Elkia. But it's not all bad, because now the nobles are actually leaving her alone. Now Elkia has a lot more resources to distribute, and so the nobles are just letting her go about that. It seems that the idea of forming a commonwealth with the Eastern Federation is now somewhat of a possibility. Before, it had seemed almost like a dream because of the extreme disparity between the amount of resources that Elkia and the Eastern Federation were bringing to the table. But now, it was only Sora and Shiro that were in the game that won the rights of Siren, that won the ocean resources. And so the balances are much more equal now. It seems that the Eastern Federation still has a bit more to offer, but the marine resources that Oceania has was something that the Eastern Federation could never get their hands on because they never had trade with the Sirens. So now they're in a good position. Sora and Shiro had truly done everything that they had said. They had brought 3 more races under their umbrella. Siren, Dampier, and now even Flugel, Avantheim, was wanting to join the Commonwealth of Elkia. And Steph thinks to herself, if all of this was intentional, if Sora and Shiro did all of this knowingly. But she realizes that Plum came and called upon Sora and Shiro unexpectedly, so there was no way that they could actually plan for that, which is the truth. But once Plum did call upon Sora and Shiro, both of them took their time. They didn't agree to Plum's request right away, refusing Plum's request actually 3 times before eventually agreeing to discuss with the Shrine Maiden and plan out what their exact method of attack is going to be, how exactly they're going to win the Queen's game, figure out, how the Queen's game worked, and what exactly else was at play, because they could easily tell that Plum wasn't being 100% forthcoming with all of the information. A lot of these things did have to be improvised throughout this arc, but still, at the end of the day, the Shrine Maiden did not participate in that game, allowing Elkia to gather all of the marine resources from Oceania. And this led Steph to think once again about the 10 Covenants, and what Sora had said about them. Let's all have fun and play together. That's how you challenge the one true God. Steph looked out over the horizon and saw the massive chess pieces that dotted the world of Disboard, and wondered, if those were Tet's starting pieces, then that would mean that for each individual Exceed, she realized that their race pieces are each in the shape of a chess piece, and wondered if each of them are going to have their own role to play. And then she thought that she was overthinking it, but in fact, no, she's right on the mark. Every race has their own race piece that is a different piece on the chessboard, equaling to what, one side of the chessboard would have. 8 pawns, a queen, a king, 2 knights, 2 rooks, 2 bishops. Every race has a different piece, and every race will have their own role to play. That's something I'm looking forward to discussing in a future video, but we have a few more volumes of the light novel to cover before we get to that point. At the end of the day, though, with Steph already proving just at Volume 5 how adaptable she is as not only a gamer, but as someone who can rethink her understanding of Disboard as a whole and how the world works, she's going to be a key player in a lot of the things to come. And then we cut to Sora and Shiro, as they are now at home in a new little shack that has been built in the courtyard of Elkia Castle. It's been built with, the Eastern Union aesthetics in mind, tatami mats on the floor, and is just essentially, as what I mentioned, a shack that blank decides to live in now. They don't like the royal bedchamber, instead they want to just sleep on the floor. Video games are scattered everywhere, and the siblings are seemingly passed out on the floor. But in reality, they're just faking being asleep. As a shadow approaches them in the darkness, they pop up and said, "Hey, Plum, what are you doing here at this hour? Did you finally come to reveal yourself?" Plum, of course, surprised at this, because Sora and Shiro had somehow seen through the Dampier's stealth magic. But the reality is, Sora and Shiro expected Plum to arrive, expected the Dampier girl, or rather, as Sora puts it, should I call you Mr. Plum, the last male Dampier of Exceed Rank 12. And with that, the reveal finally happening, I am finally free from having to consciously remember to call Plum by name or refer to Plum as her, because I've known, obviously for a long time, that Plum is a dude. He's the last male Dampier. He is the agent plenipotentiary of Dampier, the king of the race. And Plum simply asks, "Well, how did you figure it out?" Well, Sora and Shiro had actually figured it out a while ago. Not right away, though. And it was Shiro who figured it out, not Sora. They had only figured it out just before going to the beach. So up until that point, they still believed some of what Plum was telling them. But they had set 2 traps for Plum. When they were talking to the Shrine Maiden, Sora had constantly said and referred to Plum's magic, the plan that Plum had brought to them, as a sure win. But Plum specifically had never called it a sure win. And then Sora constantly questioned Plum as to why the Dampier weren't doing the plan themselves. And Plum constantly had said that the last male Dampier is still young, not of an age where they could reproduce. Specifically saying it in a way where it wasn't self-referential and where he wasn't referencing a specific individual. And through that, Shiro was able to deduce that Plum was that last male Dampier. In fact, that's what Shiro had written on her phone that she showed to her brother right before going to the beach. And so Sora had looked at the phone and had simply said that, "Oh, it doesn't have to be brother, huh?" Which was a lie. That wasn't what was written on the phone, and so when Sora lied, that alerted the Shrine Maiden and Izuna that something else was going on, that something else was afoot. Sora says that he doesn't really give out praise lightly, but he genuinely respects Plum's plan. Plum had went through this entire experience, everything with Sora and Shiro, without telling a single lie. Essentially, whenever Plum was asked, "Is this A or B?" Plum would simply respond with, "Well, it's not B," which is the truth, but it's not the whole truth. Plum was able to not lie throughout this entire arc. Sora and Shiro could easily see that Plum was actually trying to get Dampier free from Sirens' control. Plum did in fact have a spell that could make someone fall in love, and Plum also knew that that wouldn't be enough to wake up the Queen. But Plum still had faith in Sora and Shiro that they would be able to figure it out. And even if they lost, then, well, humanity could be fed to the Siren and Dampier could still survive. Plum had thought everything through. And so, Sora, with all due respect, says that it was a good game, and goes so far as to call it a draw. This is coming from Sora, blank, who has never lost a game, and Sora is declaring it a draw, giving genuine respect to Plum's efforts and strategies throughout this entire game. Even at Avontheim, Plum participated in that game because he had faith in Sora and Shiro, in their ability to get everything done, to be able to wake up the queen. Otherwise, Plum wouldn't have put his life on the line like that. And so Sora called it a draw. However, this is when Plum says that Sora is wrong. Instead, the game is his, as his expression darkens, and for the first time, Plum seems like the true king of the night. A vampire, someone that should instill fear. Because as he looks at the lesser things in front of him, he reveals the truth. When you defeated Siren, you didn't just inherit their rights, you also inherited their duties. Which means, and includes, the duty to supply Dampier with blood. At this, Sora's expression becomes fearful, as he shields his sister while Plum approaches, and Plum places his fangs on Sora's neck, saying, "Thank you for the meal." And as Plum presses his fangs down, he stopped, unable to pierce the skin of Sora. And to much confusion, Plum falls backwards and asks why. Why didn't it work? Falling back into the typical Plum that we had come to know, only briefly becoming a terrifying presence. And Shiro says that her brother's acting is terrible. They were hamming it up. Sora and Shiro had read even this far, because back at the beach, Sora had asked Plum, "So, what the queen actually bet was everything I have, right?" And to that, Plum just simply looked down, neither confirming nor denying, because the Shrine Maiden and Izuna were still present. Plum had to keep up the lie so that the werebeasts weren't tipped off. Sora and Shiro realized that inheriting everything meant that they would inherit the duties as well. But unbeknownst to Plum, Sora had actually had a conversation with Layla while Plum was not around. And in that conversation, Sora returned the race piece, as well as all of the rights that Layla had lost, except for the obligation to cooperate with Immanity. Sora made sure to keep that one. But with that, all the rights defaulted back to Siren, and so Plum was in the exact same position in which he started. Essentially, he had gotten things wrong right from the beginning. When he first showed up, he had told Sora and Shiro that he had heard that they intended to conquer all of the races. But that wasn't actually the case. Plum assumed that Sora and Shiro wanted to take all 16 of the race pieces for themselves. But that's not actually what they wanted. And so Plum lays back exasperated and exclaims that, "And to think that I figured that you two were going to challenge the one true God." Revealing that Plum knows the secret to this world. There is yet another character. Now, not only blank Sora and Shiro who figured it out, but the Shrine Maiden and even Plum had discovered how to beat this world, to collect all of the races and challenge God. There are many people within the world of Disboard that understand what the 10th of the Covenants is. Granted, Plum's interpretation of it was wrong. Plum thought you had to take all of the race pieces, but Sora and Shiro understand what it truly means. Still, Plum is quite frustrated because it's Sora and Shiro's absolute win. They have everything, and Plum is left right back where he started, if not in a worse position, because now Layla is in love with Sora, and is obligated by the pledges as well as her own masochistic love to do anything that Sora requests. And since the Dampier cannot defy Siren, the Dampier are going to be dragged along with this. And yet, Sora calls this a draw. Is he joking? The reality is, Sora's just offering it as a draw out of respect for Plum and the strategy that he had. Regardless of how good a strategy is, though, if you take a wrong step at the first step, then, you know, there's not for it. And then Sora reveals the true reason why Plum lost. That they came up with this brilliant strategy from a weakened position. From being under the thumb of the 10 Covenants and the Siren, they were able to strategize brilliantly. But at the end of it all, Plum still called Sora and Shiro lesser things. Plum still looked down on Immanity. Didn't have the respect for Immanity that he should have. Plum still had his pride, and that was what ultimately led to his defeat. Now though, with the game all said and done, Plum asks for one more request. To, once again, lick Shiro's feet. Sora obviously doesn't take kindly to this because, well, he doesn't want some dude licking his sister's feet, but instead offers up his own feet in exchange for Plum casting the love spell on Sora. Because Sora still doesn't understand love. Apparently, everyone else there understood it. Shiro, Jibril, the Shrine Maiden, everyone else understood what it was, but Sora still didn't. So he asked Plum to cast the spell on him. And so Plum does. And then Sora has Shiro touch his chest and say that she loves him. And then Sora sees nothing change. He doesn't understand what he was supposed to feel. He saw that the spell activated, and yet he didn't feel any different. Which causes Plum to realize, oh, so that's why the queen didn't fall in love. I see now. And of course, Shiro also seems to come to this same conclusion as she starts blushing. Sora just has no clue what's going on. The implication being that Sora is already in love with Shiro, and that's why the queen's charm did not work on him. Which is true. Sora does love Shiro, Shiro does love Sora, but there's no romance between them. The love that Sora has for Shiro is not a romantic one. It is one of, as they've said since the beginning of the series, two players in one. They are codependent. They are two beings irreparably tied together. This is something that is built upon throughout the entire series of No Game, No Life, and eventually reaches a boiling point much later on in the series, where it is truly discussed what the relationship is between Sora and Shiro. It is an incredibly deep bond that goes beyond romantic love, goes beyond lovers, goes beyond any of that. The bond that they have is not a romantic one, but it is one that is much deeper than any other relationship that they could possibly have. And supposedly, that's why the Queen's charm did not work on Sora and Shiro, because their bond is so close that that superficial power of charm that the Queen had could simply not affect them. I'll be delving deeper into that in future videos. It's going to take us quite a while to get there, but we'll be discussing a lot about No Game, No Life. Overall, this chapter and this arc as a whole gave us a lot more in the series. More races have been introduced. Elkia has incorporated not only Werebeast, but now Siren, Dampier, and even the entirety of Flugel. New allies have been gained in the form of Plum and Layla, and the bonds between old allies have been strengthened, between Blank and Izuna, as well as the Shrine Maiden. Izuna now can come to fully trust Sora and Shiro's words, that no one is going to die after they've saved her grandfather. And the Shrine Maiden, too, now can come to trust Sora and Shiro with the burden that she's been carrying for a very long time. But that will have to wait for a future video that will be coming out soon. In the meantime, let me know how you enjoyed this chapter. Was it the ending that you expected for the romance game to make the queen fall in love? What did you think of the Ocean arc as a whole, and what are you looking forward to most in the future? There's still one more video to make on the epilogue of Volume 5, but the next volume will be the one covering the Great War. No Game, No Life 0. Though it's still going to be a while before we get there, as there are a number of specific videos I want to make on certain things that have happened throughout the Ocean arc, throughout Volumes 4 and 5 of the light novel, covering the games, the character interactions, and how the relationships between characters have grown. So, if you want to see that, if you're looking forward to it, make sure to subscribe to the Daily Flugel, and I will see you guys in the next video. Ashente.